What's going on, YouTube? We are back in, actually this is the first video of the year. It's 2023 now. I took a week off, I'm sorry about that, but we got our parts came in finally for this 80 series, and let's go ahead and get this front differential put back together and watch it work again, or whatever it is. I don't know, roll the intro.
It just runs. Because I read it.
Therefore, I have a dummy bearing here and a dummy bearing here. The dummy bearings are machined to come on and off very easily. This is going to allow us to change the pinion depth shim quite often. I am going to be using the old crush sleeve because I can alter it and not worry too much about it, and all I need to do is get somewhat of a preload on it for right now, so I can go ahead and put the carrier on and we can run our first pass. What I'm looking for is somewhat a preload. So if I spin this, it's not gonna spin freely. If I try really hard, it's gonna stop, and that's gonna be really good. Now we can go ahead and put down our carrier, and we're gonna mark our teeth. We have our ring gear torqued down, and I have it kind of pretty much set. I need to go ahead and double check my backlash. Okay, so that was close. We're at about 7 thousandths backlash, which is within spec. Usually I like to stay between 5 to 8 thousandths. That's where I found these diffs to be the most happiest at on stock ratio. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint the ring gear, and we're gonna make our first pass and see how it looks. Let's look and analyze the pattern here. All right, let's take a look at our drive side. We got a nice big thick pattern, but it's still a little on the high side. We can go a little bit in on depth, but it's covering a good percentage, and it's at the middle of our tooth. So this is actually kind of passable. It's not to my standard, but it is passable. You could put this on the vehicle and it would run pretty good. Now let's look at our coast side. Now, if we look at our coast, it's actually telling us a completely different story. See how we're a little high up to the left, over here towards the heel, and we're not making a good solid contact patch in the middle. So our backlash was set to about 7 thousandths, and this is something we can change real quick. We're gonna go ahead and bring it down to about 5 thousandths or so, repaint, and then go again, and then see how much our pattern changes. If it doesn't change, then we might have to start looking at changing our pinion depth to get a more desirable pattern on our ring gear. That looks pretty good. A nice thick oval patch for our drive side. It's pretty much dead center. Our coast is actually looking pretty good as well. It's kind of hard to show on camera. I am very happy with that setup right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this back apart, and we're gonna go ahead and get the dummy bearings off the pinion, and we're just gonna start setting up our preload for the pinion and doing final assembly. So let's just get straight to that. All right, I got the carrier off of it. I need to go ahead and take the flange out, pull the pinion back out, get the dummy bearings off, and we're gonna go ahead and put the new bearings on it, and then the new crush sleeve, and then we're gonna set preload. So give me a minute to set this up, and I'll update y'all a little better. Okay, for some reason, the footage I got from installing the bearings and the pinion is lost. I don't know what happened, but I got the new crush washer on here. I'm pressing in the bearing in here, the outer pinion bearing. Okay, so usually you don't have to set these flush, you gotta actually go recess a little bit. If you don't recess the seal, this lip here will push too hard against the actual flange dust shield right here, and it'll give you a false sense of preload, which is not what you want. Okay, now that I got the bearing fully seated, I have quite a bit of play in the pinion, which means there's no preload. And we're gonna walk the nut in there until I finally I have a measurement of preload, and I'll show you how I measure that here in a minute. Once I have this nut torqued down to where I feel a little bit of preload in the flange, I go ahead and measure it out with my preload tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and turn it. I'm measuring the breakaway resistance in the bearings. And right now we're about 5 inch-pounds. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep going tighter. After making some adjustments, right at 15. So we're gonna call that good. Stake our nut. So you can't see it, I have to choose. I figured you guys would like to see the dial indicator side. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the other side preload nut until we get a movement on the dial indicator. And just like that. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten the other side, because what we're at right now is 0 preload. For both the adjusting nuts are touching the bearing race, but they're not really applying any pressure. So we're gonna go ahead and do 1.5 notches. And now we have the preload set for the carrier itself. Now we can fully dial in our backlash. After we adjusted preload, we're right about 5 thousandths backlash. That's right within spec. Backlash should generally be anywhere from 5 thousandths to 7 thousandths, so we're on the lower end of the spectrum. Okay, with our front differential now built, I need to go back to the focus of the matter and getting the axle housing ready to go. You can kind of see it right there. It's a flat spot on the trinion bearings right here, and we're gonna go ahead and replace all these bearings, clean all this nasty grease out of here. So there is 2 17mm and 4 17mm bolts at the bottom, and we're just gonna go ahead and start cracking these out of here. Oh, I get ahead of myself again. So much dirt, dude.
Too late for them to bring it to mask.
Yeah. Huh. Those guys right there are a real son of a gun. Oh. Whew. Ugh.
So you're kind of like waiting.
Yeah.
If you don't.
Okay, so what I'm actually doing right now is I'm shoving a rag through the axle hole. I gotta stuff a couple of them in here. Got a long pry bar, and I'm going to push these rags all the way through, up into where the third member mounts. Oh, that's nasty. So I gotta do a bunch of cleaning. All this stuff is absolutely disgusting. This is gonna take me literally hours to clean everything. So with the magic of editing, I can just go back to the next step. In case you're wondering why I am coughing in slow motion, or talking, that is, I might have forgotten to switch settings on my camera for the entire morning of this shoot, of all the work in progress that I did. And this had to have been the nastiest, dirtiest front differential housing that I've ever had to clean out. I mean, what you guys are seeing here in the next few scenes is a culmination of 4 hours of cleaning, scrubbing, and getting as much gunk as I could out, while at the same time not knowing that I was in the wrong settings. I was vastly overheating my camera, unknowingly. And it wasn't just the housing that took me 4 hours, it was all the spindles, hubs, and prepping everything for reassembly. That just took a ridiculous amount of time. And I was so in the groove, I didn't know that I had permanently damaged my camera. At one point, audio just quit working. And shout out to DJI on their new audio wireless mic system, which allows me to record my audio separately from my camera and just sync it later in the editor. So I appreciate you guys listening to me play my little violin, and fortunately for me, I just got back to work, and I eventually did get my camera to somewhat work so I could finish out this job and this video for you guys.
That would be my definitely to be nice.
All right, so this is a Burfield right here. It's like the CV axle, but essentially there are these giant balls right here that go in these grooves, and then there's this cage right here that goes in like that, and then these balls rest within here, and this allows us to have a constant velocity shaft. We can change the angle of the dry shaft in any way, or the axle shaft in any way, and this is what helps, you know, giving power to the wheels while you're turning. Sorry if that's kind of like a long-winded, not very good explanation as to how a constant velocity shaft works, but that is a pretty good breakdown. Now what's wrong with this one right here, this is the one I pulled off of the driver's side, is these big divots right here. So when an axle is low on grease or anything like that, you get these really nasty clicks, and that clicks is literally those balls eating away at the housing part of the Burfield. So this one's no longer any good. I can't trust this one. It's a real shame because the splines on this is in really good condition and fantastic condition, but this part right here is no bueno. So how does the new one look like? Well, the new ones look beautiful. These are from Cruiser Outfitters, and we had these overnighted in a pinch. So we're gonna go ahead and prep this one and get it ready to go in the vehicle because that is our next step. So we gotta build 2 of these. New axles, just what we needed. This is the CV axle grease I like to use. We use 3 tubes per axle. We're gonna start by filling up before we put the shaft in. I like to fill up the bottom just a bit, at least half the tube. So when I put 1 tube for the actual CV axle and 2 for the housings. Just like that. Wear gloves. Don't do what I do. 1 long shaft, please. Like a glove. All right, now we can go and assemble this whole system right here. I'm gonna go ahead and open up a tube of axle grease. I'm gonna fill this up a little bit, not too much, and down in here as well. $34 foot-pounds. Get the right socket. One more tube. All right, then we can close that up now. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and torque down our main adjusting nut to 43 foot-pounds. Okay, that's gonna be very tight. We're gonna move these around. And we're gonna go ahead and break it loose again. And then we're actually gonna tighten it back down to 18 foot-pounds. Right there. That's a lot better. Put in our locking ring. And then our locking nut, and we're gonna torque that down to 35 foot-pounds. So now we're gonna torque down our locking nut to 35 foot-pounds. There we go.
Oh yeah, Dante was. I'm sure they were
For some reason, I'm having camera problems. I overheated the living crap out of this thing. So sometimes it wants to record, it doesn't want to record. I need a new camera. I'm currently working on that. But I went ahead and pulled the oil pan off of this thing before I finished putting everything else back together. It needs a new gasket. I've already cleaned the living bejeebus out of it, and I'll show you. Yeah, and it quit working again, alongside with audio again. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. It was a very extensive repair. It took a lot of time. I was basically on this truck nonstop for over a week, and it was really satisfying to do. It is one of my favorite things to work on an 80 series when I do have one in the shop. And whenever my camera did work, I tried my best to record as much as the finished product as I can, because I'm very proud of it, even though, you know, it essentially ruined my favorite pair of pants and one of my favorite sweaters. So on that note, I'm going to say thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one. I'm working on, as I said, getting another camera. I should have one hopefully here pretty soon. And as soon as I do, I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching.